We've been remodeling this bathroom from a dirty, dingy stink hole into something a little bit more cozy. In our last video, we made this beautiful cherry cabinet with all the fancy tools. Now all that's left is this hole in the wall that I want to turn into a medicine cabinet to match the cherry vanity. This is a really simple project, so this time we're going to use basic woodworking tools. No fancy shop, no expensive tools. And this video is brought to us by Squarespace. On the other side of this is this linen closet that's going to need its own makeover and video. We'll save that for another date. The mirror here doesn't open up. And so we're just going to build into this. And since this is for temporary guests, I don't think it needs to open and close. We're just going to do a really stupid, simple shelving system in here. And since the cabinet is made out of cherry, we're gonna stick with cherry and build a frame. We're kind of working on the fly here, but I'm thinking we do some glass shelves in there. So let's head to KenCraft and go pick up some cherry. We are back from KenCraft with this beautiful piece of cherry. It looks like our depth for this cabinet is 4 inches, so I'm just gonna rip this 9-foot long piece of cherry to 4 inches. And we're using all budget-friendly tools today. We're gonna do 45-degree mitered corners. I need to rough cut this down just to make this a little bit more manageable. If I was in my big shop and I had all the table space that I'm used to, I probably wouldn't have to do that, but this guy's long and awkward. So now I've got my blade set to 45 and I can start cutting all the pieces down to size. You might have noticed I'm not in my usual shop. This is because I've set up a secondary shop at our Airbnb house in a small garage with nothing but budget-friendly tools. For some videos, I'll use all the big fancy equipment, and for other videos, I'll try to keep it as simple and cheap as possible. If you're curious about the cheap tools I'm using, I've got a video on that. Link below. The frame for the cabinet is made. Before I can glue this together, I need to cut a dado in the back that's going to hold this 1/4-inch cherry that we got from KenCraft. And we're gonna do a cool little trick that's going to allow it to expand and contract by using multiple pieces and then not gluing those pieces together. We'll get to that in a second. The blade is not a 1/4-inch wide, so that means it's gonna take a couple of passes to get that to fit. I've got 3 pieces for the back that we just cut the length. They are going to overlap each other with a half lap, and that's going to allow them to expand and contract over the season since we're using solid wood and not plywood. So I'm going to put a half lap on the inside seams of all the pieces. So I have my blade set to about half the thickness of the board. And again, this is going to take multiple passes so we can get the width that we need. So I had to clamp a sacrificial fence to my fence so I could butt it up against the blade. Don't want to ruin a brand new fence. That way I can get this little nugget on the edges here. So I've got a half lap here, and on this side and on this side, and they will all fit together like that. As it expands, the back of the cabinet won't be exposed. You'll still have some of that beautiful cherry wood back there. All right, so now on the side pieces, we have to cut the dados for the shelf. I've got my boards taped together so I can cut the dados at the same time for each one. That way the shelves are nice and level. I've got the lines drawn on there for the 4 shelves, and I'm just going to split that line right down the middle. And the blade is set to about half the height of the boards. I don't have any kind of mitered clamps here at this shop. So we're just going to use tape, good old tape. That's going to go in there like that. And then the next piece. All right, that is looking good. I need to reinforce the corners. So we're just gonna put nails in on the sides. And since this will be in the wall, you won't see these nails. I can't remember the last time that I actually used nails in a woodworking project. So now that the case is done, we are ready to cut and polish the glass. Mark that to 13 inches. I got a glass cutter and some glass cutting oil. I'm gonna use my straight edge here. What this is gonna do is score the glass and then we will break it. That's a good sound. So I can set a pencil underneath that score line and give it a pound. There we go. I'm starting with 150 grit sandpaper, wet dry sandpaper, getting it wet and just starting to sand the edge. You want it wet to keep any glass dust down here. You don't want it up here. And wear eye protection and hand protection. We're gonna use construction adhesive to mount this in there. We're just gonna check our fit. And that's gonna go in there like that. We have these nasty edges, so we're gonna use more of this thin stuff and basically just make a picture frame that's gonna go all the way around it to cover up the seam. So for the frame, the molding, whatever we wanna call it, I wanna use some thinner material. We don't have any more thinner material, so I'm gonna take my 3/4 stock, resaw it in half, and then plane it down to the thickness that I want. While we are working on the molding for this cabinet, I'd like to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is Squarespace. For a long time, I have been saying how easy Squarespace is to use, and it's now even easier thanks to Squarespace Blueprint. You don't need to know a thing about design. If you want to set up a new Squarespace site, with Squarespace Blueprint, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions up front, what you do, what you want, and it's going to start building the website in the background with the help of AI. And if you don't want AI, you don't need it. I'm just saying it makes it so easy to set up. This quick little questionnaire is going to ask you what you want on a homepage. It's going to give you a few options to choose from. It's going to ask you what other pages you want and give you a few options to choose from. You're not locked into anything. That's because Squarespace is easy to update and change later on. This is just a quick start to get you up and going. There's going to be a little progress bar down at the bottom to let you know where you're at in this process. And when you're all done, you basically have a website ready to go and populate. It is so easy. You have no excuses to not set up a website now. Visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, visit squarespace.com/makesomething for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to this medicine cabinet and get it installed. I've got my molding pieces cut. These 3 pieces hang over the edge to cover up that gap, that seam on the wall. This piece over here, I had to cut it down even thinner because it goes up into the corner and there's not room for the overhang. We're going to glue and pin nail it to the cabinet before attaching it to the wall. I think that's the right way to go. I hope that is the right way to go. It's going to go in there just like that. These pins are so small, you won't even see them in there. And that will allow me to bypass clamps and just hold that in place while the glue dries. If you've ever watched New Yankee Workshop, Norm is crazy about pin and brad nailers. He just pins and brad nails everything. If I learned anything from that show, from 30 years of New Yankee Workshop, is use your pin and brad nailers more. All right, so because we have the one side that doesn't stick out, we have this little issue here where we got some nubbins to remove. I found my favorite wood filler. This stuff is called Good Filler. I love the name, but this stuff works so well. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. Hashtag not sponsored. This stuff just, it works great. It takes oil and stain just like wood. It smells really good. This is my favorite stuff. So I'm gonna use this to fill in my gaps. And in the place where you live. And so now we're gonna use my blend of wood finish. I got a video on making this. And this stuff looks so good on cherry. Got that first coat on there. I'll do a second coat after we get it installed, which we're gonna go do right now. So there are a couple of ways I can install this in there. One is using some construction adhesive, and another way is to nail it. Ooh, that's a nice fit. Right into the studs. And I think I'm gonna try nailing it into the studs first. Oh my goodness, that's a great fit. Woohoo! Oh, yes, that's so nice. I don't know if this is gonna work, so I'm gonna try it on the side that you won't see, and I'm gonna nail it right to the studs here. Oh yeah, that's gonna work great. I'm going right through the groove for the glass, so you won't even see it. That's in there now. Sweet! The finish is now dry, so I'm just gonna insert the shelves in here, and it's a tight little friction fit, but that came out great. I've also got a video on the cabinet down below. In fact, I am building every single piece of furniture in this house, and I've got a series of videos on all of those pieces of furniture. In a few months, you will be able to rent and stay at this house and check out my furniture firsthand. That's gonna wrap it up. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something. What do you think, Dale?
Looks good, Dave.
Looks f***ing good. Looks good. Looks good. Ain't no cursing on this channel anymore. All right, I'll see you later.